reflection and remembering will, when you have a relationship, will send you to worship. Because when you reflect on who you were and you look at who you are, that gives you a reason to worship, because only God could do that. When you remember some of the things that you experienced and how you came out without scars, that will lead you into a worship, because you'll realize that only God could do that. She talked about a couple names of God that would make you go to worship, because only God could do that. When we look at Lily of the Valley, where is the substance that is causing a lily to live coming from? In a valley, a dry place. A lily, something that needs nourishment, water, something that needs those types of things, is in the middle of a valley, draws you to worship, because only God could do that. Only God could do that. How else could we do that? See, when we think about a desert, we just think about dirt. But if you know anything about a desert usually runs farther than you can see. And as far as you can see, you won't see water. But you're talking about a lily, which is one of the finer flowers, in the midst of a dry place, showing you his power. It will draw you to worship, because only God can give you hope like that, to know that regardless of the situation you're in, there's still hope. Right in your dry place, there is still life. Right in your dry place, I can still show the essence of who you really are. You're focusing on the desert, you're focusing on the dirt, you're focusing on the lack, but I'm showing you who I am. I'm showing you what I can do. Everything about God is a miracle. And when we see that, it will drive us. It'll drive us to worship. So we've got to reflect and we got to remember, and that will push us into a place of worship. Does anybody have any questions dealing with how do I worship? Did a good job teaching. Anybody got no questions? Yeah, it's that reflection and that remembering piece is important, because sometimes, this is the truth, sometimes you can go extensive periods of time without worshiping because you didn't take time to remember. Because you're busy, because you got a lot going on, because you're moving, because you got this going on, you got a heavy itinerary, you got a lot of things happening, you didn't take time to remember God. You didn't take time to remember the blessing that you have to have an itinerary. You didn't take time to remember, to recognize, to reflect on the fact that you don't qualify to be who you are. It'll drive you to worship. And when we talk about how are we going to worship, it's based on that relationship. That personal relationship is important. And when she spoke on you having a personal relationship in order to be intimate, that's necessary. How can you have a personal relationship with someone that you don't know? The first thing, if we're going to deal with worship,